Hello everyone, my name is Tyler Krompiatek from Coley at Canisius College. In this video we will discuss some of the basics of using OneDrive. OneDrive is a cloud storage service similar to Google Drive. It is part of the Microsoft 365 suite of online applications and can therefore be used to create most of the files offered in Office 365, like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, amongst others. For other documents or files, you will have to go to Office 365. This is because while looking similar to Office 365, OneDrive is a different application meant more for cloud storage rather than actual work or file creation. If you are interested in a full explanation of this difference, please refer to the Microsoft 365 Basics video. Another important distinction I want to make early on in this video is that I will be using the terms Desktop OneDrive Folder and Online OneDrive Folder. They are similar insomuch as one is a representation of the other and vice versa. I will use Desktop OneDrive Folder to refer to the folder that is located on your local computer. I will use Online OneDrive Folder to refer to the folder accessible only on the internet. Let's take a look at setting up OneDrive on your desktop computer. If you are using a Windows 10 computer, you should have OneDrive downloaded. In fact, it may have been a nuisance to you, constantly popping up and asking you to sign into OneDrive. If you do not have OneDrive downloaded or are not using a Windows computer, there is a link in the description that you can use to download OneDrive. Keep in mind that this video gives instructions on how to use OneDrive with Windows PC, and there may be additional steps in downloading and using OneDrive on a Mac or other device. Once it is downloaded, it may or may not run the program. If it does not, you can quickly search for it by clicking on the Type Here to search or using Windows plus S on Windows or Command Spacebar on Mac. Then just find OneDrive and click on it to start the program. An important thing here to note, there may be a few steps that you will want to breeze through. Do not do this as it may cause a headache in the future. Once you have started OneDrive, it will ask you to sign in. Use your Canisius email address. When you do that, it will take you to the Canisius College sign-in page. Just sign in using your Canisius login. If you have multi-factor authentication active on your account, you may get that pop-up as well. Another pop-up page will appear asking you what you want to back up with OneDrive and where you want OneDrive to be located on your computer. By default, it automatically has selected 3 items for you: desktop, documents, and pictures. Mine looks different because I've already signed into OneDrive a couple of times before with this account, so it kind of remembered some of things that I wanted to do with it originally. I would deselect all 3 so that you have more control over what gets uploaded to OneDrive. These files that get uploaded, which we will talk about later, should be things that will be used again and again, like course syllabi, PowerPoints, videos, and so on. In the bottom left corner, it will also ask you where you want to create the OneDrive folder. It defaults to this place here, which can become a hassle to access, particularly if you do not like using the Windows File Explorer. Instead, I'll click on the Change Location button underneath it, and I'll click on Desktop to have the folder accessible to me on the desktop rather than anywhere else. Then I'll click Select Folder. This will make it easier for access later on. I'll click on Next. Another pop-up window will appear informing you of some of the things of getting to know OneDrive, for example, as well as some of the symbols that files in OneDrive folder will have, and how to share and send files to OneDrive. Read these carefully as they are important and very useful. You also get this pop-up for the OneDrive mobile app, which you can get, but we won't go into that in this video. I'll click on Later for that, and then click on Open My OneDrive Folder, which will send me to the File Explorer. In any case, I can start moving files and folders into this OneDrive folder on my desktop to begin syncing them to my OneDrive online. As you can see, I already have a couple of folders and files on my OneDrive. That's because this is from my Online OneDrive folder. But it's very easy to put folders and files into the OneDrive folder. All you have to do is find the file that you want, and you can just drag it to the OneDrive folder, or because I have it on my desktop, drag it to the OneDrive folder on my desktop, or I can right-click on the file and go to Move to OneDrive. This doesn't really work for folders, it only really works for individual files, but it's still useful nonetheless. So I'll just drag this over here, and as you can see, I already have the same file on my OneDrive, and I'll just click on Replace the file in the destination. In any case, when you start moving files and folders into this OneDrive folder on your desktop to begin syncing them to OneDrive online, in the lower right, you might get a pop-up similar to this one, saying something to the effect of syncing OneDrive This most often is done in the background, and this pop-up will not become so bothersome unless files do not sync properly. For some files, however, and folders, you may want to have them accessible to you on your local hard drive or desktop. Simply right-click on the file that you want to have accessible. I'll do it for Coley. In the menu that appears near the top, you will see a blue cloud symbol for OneDrive, and under that some options. Click on Always Keep on this device. If it is already synced to OneDrive, you may have the option to view it online and view the version history or changelog file. Free up space will essentially delete the file from your local hard drive, but provide a link for you to access the file easily using your Online OneDrive. Alright, so now these files are syncing. You can tell because of the blue arrows right here. That means that it's syncing, and if I click on Coley, I can see that some of the folders have that solid green circle, which means that this is also available to me on my desktop. Go back real quick. Let's check on our OneDrive folder online. As I mentioned, we have already shown how to access MS365, so I will not spend much time doing it now. Now that I'm in MS365, I'll click on the OneDrive icon on the left sidebar here. We already introduced you to this page, but just a brief recap. I can see my top-level folders, also known as parent folders, and files here. I can see when the items were last modified, who modified it, the items in the folder or file size, and whether or not the item has been shared. On the top there's a search bar, which allows me to search for files and folders by name. Below that is Create New, which allows me to create various files and folders. I can also upload right to the Online OneDrive file and have it automatically get synced to my desktop OneDrive file. I can also initiate the syncing of the Online OneDrive folder and the desktop OneDrive folder from here. However, this should happen automatically, and I should not have to worry about doing this manually. Keep in mind that this syncing process is not necessarily instantaneous, and it may take a few moments for new files to appear on OneDrive. To the right of these options, I have various sorting options which allow me to sort by type, name, modified, and so on. On the left, I have my files, recent, shared, and recycle bin, all of which are self-explanatory. If I want to share a file, I can hover over the file and click on the arrow symbol that appears. Then follow the steps to share the file. For more options, I can click on the three vertical dots here. These options are pretty self-explanatory for the most part. Keep in mind that some files may have different options, and this depends on the sharing as well as the file or folder itself. There's also Automate here, which is a very powerful tool and will be covered in another video. Note as well, if I delete a file from the Online OneDrive folder, it will also be deleted from the desktop OneDrive folder and vice versa. If I want to delete the item from the Online OneDrive folder, but want to keep the file for some reason, I will have to go back to the desktop OneDrive folder. I'll select the file that I want to keep. I'll hit Control and C or Command and C if you're on a Mac to copy the file. Then, just as a demonstration, I'll just click on the desktop back here and hit Control and V to paste the file in. Or I can select another folder to put the file into as well. Then I can delete the file from the desktop OneDrive folder or the Online OneDrive folder. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, please email us at helpdesk@canisius.edu. Thanks for watching and have a great day.